So if you got a Bible, Second Chronicles, if you don't, I'm just going to read it. Second Chronicles chapter 34, verses 31 through 33. When I moved, before we were back in the Arlington area, we were in Austin. I was a church planting pastor, and we moved back to Arlington. And I worked with an organization with my father called Mentoring 1-to-1. And so I would do these one-on-one appointments with college students, with seminary students, with young youth pastors, just pouring into their life the truth of the gospel of Jesus and how to transform that in the ministry they were in, just transform their hearts so they could help transform others, and getting to coach at Grace Prep part-time. And as I've introduced myself, really the last 6 months, I guess the last 9 months now, we've gotten to work not only in junior high sports, but work with Phil in the family ministry area, getting to do mentoring on the campus, which is what I love to do. I love to mentor students, love to mentor guys who are young in ministry. I'm 36, but I've been doing this since I was 19. And so it feels like the older I get, it feels like when I sit down with a college student doing student ministry, I'm like, why did they let me do what they're letting that guy do? Sorry, PD. But I'm prayer walking my neighborhood about 2 years ago, and just crying out to the Lord and saying some stuff to Him. And part of what I was talking about was, it seemed like every time I sit down with a guy, well, I'm addicted to porn. Well, when did it start? Well, I was 9. Well, I was 10. Well, I was 12. And so I was just talking to the Lord about it, and I just heard Him say, Josh, I want you to be a voice against internet porn in our culture. And I said, God, I really hope there's another guy named Josh on this street. Because I'd like to do a whole lot besides that. And as I began to, that particular time, I was just studying Kings. And I came across a story of Josiah in 2 Kings 22 and 23. And 2 Chronicles 34 is just kind of a summary of that. But if you want to go read 2 Kings 22 and 23, it would be, it's incredible. And by the way, if you don't know me, I cry a lot. It said, the king, who is Josiah, stood by this pillar, and he renewed the covenant. And he renewed it in the presence of the Lord, to follow the Lord, to keep His commands, His regulations, His decrees. And he said, with all his heart and with all his soul, we will obey the words of the covenant written in this book. And he had everyone in Jerusalem and everyone in Benjamin pledge themselves to it. And the people of Jerusalem did this in accordance with the covenant of God, the God of their fathers. Now listen to this part. Josiah removed all detestable idols from the territory belonging to the Israelites. He had all who were present in Israel serve the Lord their God. And as long as he lived, they did not fail to follow the Lord, the God of their fathers. If you read the second Kings 22 and 23, what you see is Josiah is broken over what God's people have become. And guys, if we're not broken over where we're at, we're in trouble. We're in a mess. And what happens is he says, no mas. Not on my watch. And he goes in chapter 23 from town to town to town. And you look this up. There are 2 kings in 1st and 2nd Kings it talks about. There's Hezekiah and there's Josiah. And what it says of them is that they removed all the false idol worship and all the high places. With everybody else it'll say, remove the false idol worship but did not tear down the high places. Josiah goes from room to room, town to town. Why did I tell you that? Because to do this, that's what we have to do in our house. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you tonight how you do technology with your kids. I'm going to give you some strategies. But if I tell you what I do and then you go replicate it, that's called legalism. And last time I checked, that doesn't work. But what I am going to tell you is, like Josiah, we got to roll up our sleeves and go to work. It starts with brokenness. And then we go to work. And we say, not in my house. So, we're going to start with filters. I'm going to tell you right now. Filters don't work. But they're better than nothing. I'm going to tell you the 2 I like the most. I like and these are written down on your sheet. I like x3watch.com. And I like Covenant Eyes. And here are the reasons why I like these. Because they send reports to you. And not only do you see if they looked at porn, you can see what time they're doing their internet activity. So your son may not be addicted to porn, but what if he's doing YouTube from midnight to 1 a.m.? I'm telling you, that's not going to go to good places. So it helps you to know. I will tell you that X3 Watch, unless it has changed recently, you have to disable Safari on your smartphone and use other web browsers for it to work. And you have to put certain blockers for your student so that they can't re-enable Safari. But those are the two that I like the most. This next piece is really key. We've got to understand the digital capabilities that our kids have. I'm going to tell you, I did not know this. So I'm just going to list this off. These aren't, you can write them down, they're not on your deal. I give you kind of an outline, then you get to fill in what you want. Your children can access internet from any cell phone if it is internet capable. I will tell you, because of my past history, that it is impossible for Josh Proctor to access internet from his phone because Verizon has put an internet blocker on it. But that's everybody in the Proctor household. It's not very convenient for the Proctor family when they are lost in Frisco. But sometimes that's what you got to do. So it's not just phones. It is iPads. It is the Windows version of the iPad. It is it's laptops. It's desktops. But these are the three I want to focus on the most because most parents don't know this. iPod Touch has as much internet capability as any iPod or iPhone. That's number one. Number two, if you have Wi-Fi in your house through the Wii, through any other video station, Xbox, they can access internet. And here's why I'm telling you this. Because on a football field, I have had students confess to me, waiting after practice, tears in their eyes, Coach Proctor, can I talk to you? And they are accessing it via their Xbox Live that their parents are paying for monthly. Now you need to know, just so you know, at this school, when kids tell us that, we call mom and dad. Or we give the student the opportunity to tell mom and dad before we call mom and dad. Not to get the kid in trouble, but parent partnership is not just education. It's spiritual life first, then education. So you need to hear that. Okay? So you just need to know they have those digital capabilities. So what do? We just disabled the internet. Through our, like you can go in through your parent blocker and disable it. That's what we did. And then we put a passcode on it. So you decide how you want to do that. That's what we're doing. We're going to get to the question part in a second. I'm going to jump ahead to helpful resources because I don't need to talk about them except to say this. If you go to joshproctor.com/mypassion, you're going to hear my story and my passion about tearing this thing down. It's killing us. That's more inspirational. The Anne Marie blog, that's more educational, but I would encourage you to pray before you read it. It's intense. The Gospel Coalition, and the reason I put these here is they are no longer up in those blogs unless you scroll way, 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 way back. This is the easiest. I mean, you just type this in directly, it goes right to it. The Gospel Coalition one is 9 things that internet porn does to the brain. The 9th one is a 20-minute video of a secular, non-Christian research scientist explaining how internet porn has produced the demise of guys of 20-somethings in today's American culture. And asking for guys he's lost to stop looking at porn. And he walks you through what internet porn is doing to the brain. And he does a very good job of distinguishing between internet porn and regular porn. They are 2 different things. And the difference, just in the layman's terms, is novelty. I realize what Mr. Smith said, we're just going to be real. So it's going to be real. If I have a mag, I look at that mag, I'm done. If I have a clicker, you let me know when I'm done. I'm not trying to scare you. But I have guys who are DBU, Christian leadership students, Southwestern Seminary students, doing 6-hour porn binges. You want to know why? It's not because they're bad. It's because dopamine almost acts like alcohol, and it causes their prefrontal cortex to lose the ability to reason. You got to understand the brain science behind this. We're going to talk about that in a second. This XXX Church one, /Nick, is a great inspirational story of a guy who does spoken word. I didn't even know what spoken word was until I watched it. I'm not hip. Susur.com is I don't know, for those of you who have younger kids in the room, former Grace Prep student, family lives in Waxahachie. The drive was, my understanding, was just too hard for him. Named Zane Woodson, has established Susur.com. And because YouTube is public property, he can go in and take YouTube videos that are family friendly and then copy and paste them into his site without all the other garbage you get with YouTube. It's a really, I've gone there, shown Jacob some of the stuff, he really likes it. Also gives you good movie previews to watch. It's a good deal. This last one, surfingforgodbook.com, you can go to that website. And there's a book called Surfing for God, written by a guy who's a minister. While in ministry, was addicted to internet porn. It went from porn to escorts and prostitutes. Yes, Charlie?
Let me piggyback real quick. Michael's a good friend of mine who wrote that book.
Really?
Yeah, went to seminary together.
That's awesome.
Know his story real well, read the book. It's probably the best book on...
I think it's the best one on the market because it does...
The biblical side and dopamine side.
Yes, it does three things to me. One is it deals in the Word of God. A lot of recovery stuff does not. Number two, it talks about brain science. A lot of Word of God stuff does not. And it's his story. And his wife stayed with him. And it's so cool. Surfing for God. Surfing for God.